Okay, there we go. Hi, hello, Annie.
Hi.
Hey. Thanks for joining me today from hot Atlanta, I guess.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking today a little bit about your book that just came out. Tell me when it came out.
It came out at the very end of last year. You know, it was supposed to come out earlier, but it was printed in China, so we waited and waited on shipping.
Yeah, and for those, like I'm holding it up, but for those of you maybe just listening to audio, it's called Behind Glass, and it's a beautiful little book. And as I'm holding it now, it's kind of, I like to call it kind of fetishy material almost in some ways, but it's this cover. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the cover, but it's got a texture to it that feels almost very skin-like, but yeah, so tell us a little bit about if we're talking about that, maybe talk a little bit about materials, kind of how you
Yeah,
what the book is made of.
I would say that the cover material, I stressed and stressed over that of one thing, you know, where everything else I kind of knew what I wanted. And
Mhm.
as far as color, material, and I got those little, Laurie Shock, my book designer, gave me all the little samples, you know, and that
Mhm.
like fabric samples, little booklets, you know, and I just went through those and I would show them to my daughter who's an artist, and we would, you know, I just went back and forth and back and forth. And I have a limited edition of 25 that's in a slip cover, and we made that one just a slightly different color. And I think that's a suggestion I got from you. But so it's a little gray, and the slip cover's kind of a leather color.
And it's the same material.
And that suede, same material. But I like
Yeah,
the
yes.
feel of that material.
Yeah, suede's probably much better than I described it. It's skin-like, which may be a little off-putting to someone, but it feels really wonderful to hold it. So in addition to actually like sitting with it for a little while, so you kind of want to hold it in your hands.
Mhm,
And so you work with Laurie Shock for
mhm,
the design. And
mhm.
I feel like we're kind of going backwards too. How was the experience of working with a designer, and maybe Laurie in particular?
So I already knew Laurie. She lives in Atlanta, you know, so I haven't worked with her before, but I'd met her, and you know, and I like her, and I knew some people that had worked with her, and well, it was super easy, even though we were doing it during COVID. So a lot of times we couldn't get together. We were Zooming a lot, and she was sending each other stuff through FedEx back and forth, or getting together and with masks on, you know, and staying really far apart or passing each other stuff outside. So, but it was still, she's super easy to work with, and she knows what she's doing. She's real clear on describing things and whether this will work, or, you know, like the covers and the different materials, and why something would work or why something wouldn't work.
There's a big question. It seems like a lot of artists kind of ask me, and when we're thinking about size, like how did you discuss size? Did you end up choosing paper first and then kind of going from that direction? Or because I know that you print, in sheets, and there's considerations sometimes to maximize
Mhm.
how many pages you can get from the sheets that you're using. How did you two have that discussion?
You know, I wondered about that because I didn't, you know, because I think that the size I had chosen when I went to her, I kind of had an idea. I wanted it to be, you know, the size it is. It's 9 inches square, and I knew how many images I wanted in it. And only thing we added a little that I didn't really have in my vision was the text, the forwards, you know, and she helped me with that a lot. I mean, I had Jane Goodall having said she'd write something for it, and that's a whole nother long story. But you know, trying to get some people to write something for it, and that was another thing that if I ever do another book, I think the first thing I'm going to try to do is get the text up front, because you've
Yeah.
got everything ready and you're waiting on that. That was a
Yeah.
little stressful
Well,
too.
about how long did you wait for the copy to come through?
Well, it was more like it, it's, you know, I was in touch with Jane, and then I couldn't get back in touch with her, you know, for various reasons. And you know, then COVID, and she was staying, you know, was being quarantined during COVID, and she thought she'd missed the deadline. So she just wrote that really short little blurb and said, I'm so sorry, but just use it. And we just went on and went ahead with it because I needed to go on and just get it out there.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a very influential person to actually include
Oh,
in,
I know
in
it.
the
And
book
she was
too.
so
Yeah.
kind about it and kind to write whatever she did write.
Did you consider, like, if you look at the cover, it has your name and of course the image, but did you consider putting some that has a forward by her in there? Did you sure was it the forward proper? Or some text by Jane Goodall in there? Did you
We
think
didn't
about
consider
sharing
that just because it kind of came in after we had already set what the cover was going to look like, as well as worried I wasn't going to get that, or so I might put that in my marketing, but no, I didn't ever think about putting it on the cover.
Yeah.
And I had a vision for this book. I did a book with Stephen Hall Perry, 21st Editions, which is really a portfolio. It's a different kind of a book. He only made 17, and it's a 15 by 15, and it's got loose prints and 2 amber types. Oh, wow. But so I had really thought a lot about what pictures I wanted in the book, and I have had a lot of people look at it by going to portfolios, reviews, and sequencing. And Laurie helped me a lot with the sequencing, but I kind of had a vision of these pictures have to be in here, and here are a few you can select from that that don't have to, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, because I think you've been promoting this for many years, because I think that's how you and I may have originally.
Probably. Or
when I
met you at Photonola, when I very first had this project with where I was going to these small zoos, it was not just primates. I kind of more, realized that it needed to be just the primates.
Yeah. Why did you decide on just the primates?
Just because it says so much about, and they're so much closer to us, and they're staring you right in the face. They're in a little thing of their own.
Yeah, I think it fits in this canon too of people who've done portraiture that's comparable, like animal portraiture, where it just engages and it emotes too, if that's the right word. Most definitely you get an emotional response when you're looking at your images. So I think that's a really good thing, a good quality for a book to have, that actually brings about some emotions in the viewer. And I think it's the work itself, and then you can kind of besides it's not overwhelming, the size of them, but they are actually, there's a lot of what I kind of call breathing room on the pacing, and but they're just beautiful, beautiful portraits.
But you get to spend time with each one.
Yeah, they're very individual. Should she do I can't recall right offhand, are there any double spreads in here, or are they all presented individually?
They're not any double spreads. No.
Yeah, so you get used to a pattern, but they're all like when I was showing them just now, the difference in your placement of where the animal is actually within the frame too. So you kind of get that, probably your flow and your cadence and your movement through the book and your engagement with the animals, probably more so because of like your framing within them, even though they're kind of a standardization and a very much a patterning. The pattern, it seems like, is kind of broken visually and in the mind as you kind of look through them, as you all laid them out.
And sometimes one will flip to the left side instead of the right.
Yeah, and that kind of does a little trick sometimes too, visually in the mind. Yeah. So so how's the book doing so far? How have you worked on some of the marketing for the book? What are you looking at right now?
Well, so it, of course, right at first it's when it's really fast and going, because it's people that know me, and I had some book signings, and then now it's getting where it's okay, I've got to do phase 2
Mhm.
It's a struggle to do it yourself, not to have someone sending them out and thinking of where, like, I've got some speaking engagements, and I work with, so the one nonprofit I'm working with, one foundation I work with, is called Chimp Projects. It's in North Georgia, and it's a sanctuary for former research chimpanzees. So I'm going to go speak to them, and they're buying some books to give to the people that come to the little dinner. It's like a ticketed event. But I've also done some work for them, gone and taken pictures of their chimpanzees that they can give to their donors, or they can write a little note and send a thank you note to someone with the picture. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to find more things like that, that where it's doing some good. And I'm going to talk on a podcast called Talking Apes.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm going to talk about the intersection of photography and philanthropy. And
Oh,
because even with my other body of work where I photograph on the coast of Georgia, I try to tie it in to, when you first look at it, you wouldn't understand that, but I try to tie it into conservation, because I work with a nonprofit that kind of watchdog for the threats of the coast, the barrier islands and the Okefenokee, and all the different things that are going on. That people are trying to do, which some of them are really crazy.
yeah. Yeah. And so you did this is completely self-published book. You worked with Laurie on your own. Why did you decide to go that route and not work with a publisher?
Well, I did talk to some publishers. I had serious conversations with a couple of publishers, and I think that it just worked out better to do it myself financially. It's without getting into too many details about and it got where I still could have kept talking to more publishers, but it takes so long, and then by the time you get the contract and you think, well, I'm going to be paying for this book, but I'm not going to be getting but 10% of them. So if I'm going to pay for it, I'm going to get 100% of them. That was kind of my thinking on that, is that I didn't want to do a Kickstarter, but because I wanted to make the book affordable, and I wanted people to want the book. I didn't want to ask my family members to help me out, or anything like that. And I think it was Laurie, knowing that because another thing about working with Laurie Shock is that she works with Artron, which is a really good printer in Shenzhen, China. And she sort of works exclusively with them. And she does books for people like, say, a Camp Rock book. They want her to do the whole book, so they give her their archives of pictures, and then her husband's a photographer. He takes current pictures, and and she takes the book from the very start to the very finish. So she knew how to. I couldn't have gone to Artron myself with any confidence. So that was actually the key thing that made me decide I could do it, because I knew up front how much it would cost, and I knew it was going to work because I'd seen other books that she had made with them, and they were all beautiful.
Yeah, because it is most definitely taking a chance. And then there's pros and cons to both of working with a publisher or doing it on your own, like you're talking about. That's why I kind of brought up like marketing right now and how that's all going, because I think there are pros and cons of, working with a publisher, and you're almost kind of paying them not to publish as much as you are also paying for them to market and distribution, go to book fairs. And so you pay for this, you pay for the life of the book, almost warehouse, distribution, shipping. And there's pros and cons to both sides of doing it all on your own. But that said, a lot of photographers still have to do the same exact thing that you're doing right now anyway. They have to plan speaking engagements. They have to, go out and do book signings. They have to do a lot of the legwork on their own. So You just kind of have to balance a lot of that out when you're trying to make that decision and figuring out what exactly is your budget. And you and I talked about that some early on about you talked about the philanthropic side, and you want to do something that's really good to benefit the primates, but then it would be great if you had the nonprofit who would buy in to helping you to, you know, to do the book in the first place. But sometimes there's just so many limited funds and they don't want to compete with their funds.
They don't want to compete with their funds because
Yeah.
they need the funds to do phase 2 of their development, you know, and so
Yeah.
they don't want to, they don't want
Did
to
you talk with
they don't
some
want
of
to
the
tap one of their donors to pay for the book when they could
Mhm.
just be giving them some money to pay for what they need. And they're always struggling with just with enough people, enough volunteers, with just like everybody is, and enough money. So they're busy. And that's one of the main things that's hard to work with them, because it's like the same thing as far as time wise, you know, that they don't know when they have time. And if, even though they might appreciate the project and the idea, they're so stressed for their time.
Yeah. Yeah, I can completely. What are some of the what are some of the locations where you photographed some of the primates? You do map it, don't you, in the book?
Yes, there is a map. I don't think there's a map in the book, but in the back of the book, there's a list of the plates, and it includes where the primate was where I photographed the primate, and the year, the zoo. And I think I photographed them, if the most of them, if that came from the same place, would be Germany. And part of that is Germany has a whole lot of small zoos. Germany and the Netherlands have a lot of small zoos. And then another of that is just kind of access, because I was getting to travel with my husband, you know, just tagging along on a frequent flyer. And he goes to, he's in the wire business, but he goes to the wire show in Dusseldorf every other year. So
Really?
that's a week in Dusseldorf to get on, and every day I'd get on the train and go to a different little zoo. And then I would plan another week where I would kind of target where to go a little further away. And then whenever other places that I went, I would just go to the zoo. But a lot of that was not my choice of where I went. The one on the cover, I took that picture in Russia, in Moscow. And it just was same thing. I was tagging along on a business trip, but I said, well, I want to go to the zoo.
Yeah.
Check out.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to like thinking about like the book project, if you were to kind of go from like, you could wipe it all out now, not that you want to do that, but you could wipe it all out now and then you were to start over, what are some things that you might change? And then what are some of the things you would do the same? Like, what are the things that you thought were incredibly successful, or something that may have saved you some time or frustration with some of this? Because how long was the process from start to finish when you kind of decided to do the book and committed to the book?
Well, it was less than a year when I committed to the book. And that's pretty good, considering that we had that shipping shortage, because the book was really finished. The book was supposed to arrive in August, and it arrived in
oh wow,
November.
In August of this year? Oh no, August of
2021, and it November.
Yeah.
So I think what I already said that I would change is maybe thinking about who I wanted to write essays, and have a list and go ahead and start asking people. And I'm not sure how that would work. If you're like, well, I think I'm going to do a book and I can't show it to you, but will you write me an essay?
Yeah. Well, you could kind of show it too, because you had images that you could generate as a
images or make a dummy.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing I think I would change, is maybe I would make a dummy and send it to some dummy competitions. Or I didn't even think of that till later.
Well, I mean, there's still time to send it to book awards, probably, because you're still within your year. You can snake them in there somehow.
It's gotten some book awards, but like the Moscow, it got a gold medal in the Moscow, which isn't just books, it's a Moscow Fine Art. I can't even remember that because it's a bunch of initials, but it got an award in that. Yeah, and Laurie has sent it into some things and it's gotten some awards that I can't even remember the names of those because they're not things I'm familiar with. They're more the publisher niche,
Yeah.
I feel like it's not the you've got the photography and then you've got the other books that it's in there with the novels and everything.
Yeah, which is something good for other people to think about too. If you could actually
Uh-huh.
find out about other awards
Mhm.
that you could enter that are outside of the photo world, because sometimes the photo world becomes so small.
True.
So yeah. So any little bit of advice for someone if they were going to do one on their own, self-publishing a book?
Well, I would say that to work with some people, take some, like I worked with you, I worked with Laurie, I did Doug Stockdale's workshop. I did a workshop even before I even thought about, I was just in the early planning with Elizabeth Avedon. And just to really think about it, don't just rush into it and throw it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you live with it the rest of your life.
Uh-huh.
And even if you have to be a little bit patient and just wait and get the ideal object,
Uh-huh.
um, then I think it's worth being a little bit patient too.
And so when you make those decisions, I didn't feel at all pressured about decisions because I'd been thinking about it so much. And I talked to people that I respected and gotten advice and so I thought, I didn't, except for the material of the cover, I didn't really have that much trouble with it, with any of the, I
Oh,
kind
wow.
of had a feeling of what I wanted it to look like.
Yeah, and having a trusted designer too, because some people I think
Yes.
don't see the value in a designer, and I almost always, even if it's not with the publisher, recommend
Mm-hmm.
finding a good designer who can work with the images.
Well, like I wanted to see the paper since I wasn't going to go be on site at the print. They sent me samples of the paper and they also sent samples of the duotone so I could pick, they were all a little different. And then they sent the exact paper and the paper, it's a matte paper, but the pictures are varnished. They sent the paper with the varnish on it. So
Oh, wow.
I really felt like I needed to see those things.
Mm-hmm.
And even just like the binding thread, the little color of the binding thread. And sometimes I guess some people just trust the designer and don't worry about all that. But I worried about all those little things because I just wanted it to be exactly how I wanted it. I wanted to have
Yeah, I
control
think
of
you should
those.
worry about it too. And then did Lori prep the images for you, or did she give you specifications for getting all the images ready? I mean, I'm sure
I
you
print
printed
guide
them a
prints.
lot.
I printed every image out and sent guide prints to.
You had match prints. Okay, that's fantastic. Good. And your part prints are probably pretty consistent through as far as the color and tone. And
Mhm,
so I would think it would be easier to do it for each one.
mhm.
Well, fantastic, Anne. This is great. It's a very beautiful book, and they can buy it from just your website.
Yes, on my website is a link to the book, and then on that link is to buy the book, and you click on that, and it takes you to where you can, pay with a credit card or PayPal or Stripe.
Okay, and this is very specific, but you do have some events coming up. So do you know what the schedule is
So I
right now?
have this
Anybody's in
event.
Atlanta?
Hmm. No, well, they're specific to, I'm talking to a camera group, a photo group in Hendersonville, North Carolina. I'm talking on this podcast, this Talking Apes podcast, and then the Project Chimps, that's specific to their getting that audience. And I did a book signing at Atlanta photography group, and it was
Hmm.
kind of a little pop-up show and a book signing, and I would love to do some more of those. That I made
Yeah.
a few prints just for that pop-up. I made some small photogravures just for that little pop-up. And then with the rest of the special editions that I have, I'm trying, this is another thing I just haven't had to do because it's been summer and I really was gone all of June,
Mhm.
is to try to send it to get it in library collections, and it's in a couple of library collections, but I have some I need to make myself a little promotional thing to send out to the other one.
Yeah, Mary Virginia Swanson did a really good panel with oh, now spacing on the
Oh,
organization.
with Susan K. Grant.
I'm sorry?
With Susan K. Grant?
Yeah, and I think she's kind of jumping on that right now as some themes. So if you could look into that too, but other people, if she's jumping on that as kind of a theme that she's
She's
pursuing
one
right
of the
now.
people that helped me, and from a while back, and
Yeah.
she had already sort of put that idea in my mind about a year ago that I should be doing that. And there's just only so much I couldn't do that while I was doing the other. And it was like my priority was to get rid of most of the regular books. And then some people have bought the special editions on the website, is on the link that you go when you pay for the book. But I just haven't, I'm just now, I don't have that many of them. So I'm just now starting to figure out.
But also, if the trade edition is sold out, then the only thing's the limited is available, and it looks good if the trade edition sold out. So there you go. But well, fantastic! Thanks so much, Anne. Thanks for joining me today.
For your help. I really enjoyed everything I did with you, and it was fun.
I know. I like working with you too,
as well as helpful.
Yeah, and I'm really happy with the book. I'm very proud of the book to include it like in a stack of things I've helped with in some way. So I think it's lovely.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.